Want to enlarge an image, take a few megapixels and turn them into way more? Then here's how to upsample like a pro in Photoshop. Now, what I'm about to share with you is the professional's approach to upsampling in Photoshop. This is the way to go, assuming that Photoshop is your tool of choice. Now, I say that because there are AI-enabled upsampling solutions out there. Topaz comes to mind, but Topaz costs money. And so if you want to shell out the bucks, check it out. If you want to work inside Photoshop, this is the way to go. And it just so happens to be AI free. Nothing against AI, not slamming it. You know, I'm a fan in many cases. So no machine learning here. That's not to say that Photoshop doesn't provide AI upsampling solutions. They just don't happen to be solutions. They're subpar. That's the kind way to put it. However, what I'm about to show you is not like a one-click solution. It's a 6-step solution, as you can see right here. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort for that very special image, this is the way to go. And what could be more special than the ultimate in classical imagery, which would be the School of Athens, 1509 through 1511 by the High Renaissance master Raphael, who you may know as a contemporary to Leonardo da Vinci, pictured right here as, I want to say Socrates, it's actually Plato would be the correct answer. This guy's Aristotle. I don't know who he's modeled after. This very special reclined human is Michelangelo as Heraclitus. This dude right here is the guy I want to be. Old dude in great shape. Any event, this is not one of those paintings on a canvas that is gently spread out by experts with gloves on and then scanned at super high resolutions, you know, hundreds of megapixels. This is a fresco, meaning that it's painted on wet plaster, could be dry, some finishing touches, but that means it's stuck to a wall, so you're not going to take it off the wall and lay it out and scan it with some special device. Instead, this is stitched from a bunch of different digital photographs. Check it out. Some stitching right here. Not very good stitching in this case. There's some other flaws going on here. This, however, is the highest resolution image I could find. That is to say 11 megapixels. That's a lot of megapixels, but not nearly enough. What I want, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to 100% here, just so you can see what we're starting with. This is what we had to work with, and this is it. Insofar as the web goes, I scoured the web for hours upon hours to find this. Found it many times, but it's the same thing. What I want to do is turn it into this. This is 50 megapixels as upsampled in your friend and mine Photoshop. Now, Photoshop does have some other solutions that you may know of. For example, I'll just go back to the original here, and I'll go to the filter menu and choose neural filters. And I generally like neural filters. I'm going to say that right up front. But this one right here, Super Zoom, is a stinker, in my opinion. Just maybe the worst of them all. And notice it doesn't do anything right away. So not only does it, I'm just going to tell you, I don't mean to spoil a surprise. It produces horrible results. But also, it's weird to use. And so notice nothing occurred right away. And so I'm going to make some changes up front. Enhance image details for sure. Why not do that? Why would I say don't do that? Remove JPEG artifacts. We got to do that because there are JPEG artifacts run amok inside this image, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. Notice in the bottom left corner, this is very important, will become even more important in just a moment, 200%. So we're viewing this at the 200% zoom ratio, meaning that we're seeing 4 pixels, 4 screen pixels are devoted to 1 image pixel because, you know, too wide, too tall. And you can see the JPEG compression artifacts, can't you? And so what happens is the scientists, let's call them that, go to so much effort to get just this beautiful high resolution. They spend probably hours trying to stitch these images together, and then they just take a dump on the JPEG. I mean, they just JPEG the heck out of it. Why? Don't do that, scientists of the future. Apply your JPEG compression very lightly. Anyway, I'm going to turn on remove JPEG artifacts for all the good it does here. And I'm going to say noise reduction. Let's just crank that up to 10 because everything we do is going to cause some delays in the future in just a moment. Let's sharpen to the tune of 5 because sharpening inside here is awful. And you'll see. And then enhance face details. I would tell you to do that under normal circumstances, but notice because these first 3 neural filters are dimmed, that means that the neural filter engine cannot see faces in this image. Just can't make them out. And where this image is concerned, in your images it might, in which case go ahead and turn this guy on. In my case, it's not going to do any good. It's just going to slow things down. Okay, so how do I make this? I mean, it's super zoom. Why don't you start zooming? Well, you got to go over here and manually zoom. Notice it says zoom image 1x. I don't know why it really says that because it's going to say 3x later, but you got to click on this little plus magnifying glass right there. So it says zoom image 2x. All right. And now notice we get a progress bar. It's super slow. One step in our big process, our professional process that's so great is this guy right here, JPEG artifacts removal. It is slow as well, but it's good. It's worth the slowness. I just say it's almost done. Notice it's just got 1 second, it says. All right, now it's done. It's just that it's so slow given that every time you make a change, it's going to go through that every single time. Now notice I'm seeing the image at 100% zoom ratio. So it was 200%, now it's 100% because it doubled the number, well, it quadrupled the number of pixels inside the image because we did a 2x zoom. But notice it also turned the image into an absolute piece of garbage. Who the heck wants that? That's terrible. Yes, whoever's responsible for this at Adobe, I shriek at you. I go like this. And just because it's so awful and Plato's beard is turning kind of bluish, that's a function of JPEG artifacts removal. We'll come to that. But there's a way to take care of that. But notice what you're going to do is you're going to output, in case you decide to use this, you'd output it to a new document, which is the default. If you say new layer, you're going to have to crop it because it's going to, be inside of the existing canvas. Anyway, I would say okay, but I'm not going to because I've already done it in advance. It's this guy. There it is. And that's what it looks like. So let's compare it to, let's go ahead and zoom in to 200% here. I doubt I'll match the zoom or the pan very well, but this is the original, just zoomed. Didn't take any time to do that. And this is what that terrible filter super zoom came up with. It's awful. Anyway, you could, adjust it some more. Hey, some of you may be like, wait a sec, Deke, why aren't you using super resolution, which is available? It's an enhancement function that's available inside Lightroom and Camera Raw. And it's this guy right here. That's what it comes out looking like. Well, what it do? It's not smooth like this is. Oh my God, it's so awful. This is unsmooth, and so it's really it just enhances the JPEG artifacts because it's not designed for this kind of thing. By the way, it's designed for photographs that don't really have too much noise in them. But anyway, this looks, I would say, garbagey, don't you think? Compared with what we're about to do, I'd say so. All right, so here it is. Those 6 steps I was telling you about in detail, one step at a time. Real quick, want to take our upsampled image and make it look way, way better? And not just the colors. See that black area? That's a door. Well, guess what? We're going to fill it in with more Raphael so that it matches the rest of the imagery. An absolute classic, I tell you. To see how, join my Patreon, which is patreon.com/DekeNow. And now, back to upsampling in Photoshop. All right, here are those 6 steps, just so you have a chance to jot them down if you like. We're going to start with steps 1 and 2. Profile the image, and then we're going to do our best to get rid of the JPEG compression artifacts. What does that look like? Well, notice up here in the title tab that we're seeing the ever inauspicious # or hashtag if you prefer, and that tells us that the image has not been profiled, meaning that the RGB values will vary from one screen to another indiscriminately so. And that's a terrible thing. Ideally, whoever spent all this time stitching all these photographs together and applying all that JPEG compression would have also gone ahead and identified the source of the image, the source camera for example, with a profile. They didn't do that, however, and this is very common when you're downloading images from the web, in which case we just have to wing it by going to the edit menu and choosing assign profile. This is a shot in the dark, by the way, but it's better than nothing. So you can go with working RGB, which by default is going to be sRGB. That's fine. At least that goes ahead and locks down the colors. So any other application out there, any other system that recognizes color profiles will go ahead and display the colors correctly to the extent that it can. However, this is not likely, sRGB is not likely to identify the source. If you want to kind of emulate the source, then you want to either go with Adobe RGB, which is the way it would probably be if this would probably be the origin, if all these images were captured in the last, let's say, decade using a professional grade DSLR. And you can see that really pumps up the colors. This is before and this is after. So we have more saturation and better color values and so forth. But what I'm going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb. Some people would disagree with me. I'm going to go with image P3, which is functionally equivalent to display P3, which is Apple's profile for basically for its HDR displays, as well as the profile that's assigned to every image you capture these days with an iPhone. With any iPhone in the last many years is going to be profile display P3, again, functionally equivalent to image P3. And insofar as Photoshop is concerned, it's identical. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and click OK to accept that change. So that's step one. Step two is a tricky step. First of all, we're going to apply a filter, but not as a smart filter. And so you just don't change the image, just go up to the filter menu. In other words, don't change it to a smart object and choose neural filters. This time we're going to go with a good neural filter, which is this guy right here, JPEG's artifact removal. I'm going to turn it on so it gets going because it is a kind of slow filter. Notice it's going to take a minute, and it's going to take a minute on the image before it's upsampled. I learned this the hard way. If you upsample the image first and then apply this filter, it's going to take several times as long. So I was having it take 15 minutes every single time, and I applied it as a smart filter. Do you feel my pain? It was taking 15 minutes to do anything after that point. All right, so do it before upsampling. Then notice strength up here is set to high by default. You could go with low and medium, but high is probably what you want, especially if it came from the web and it's enough JPEG compression that you're seeing it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here by controller command clicking so we can see all that. Actually, I'll go a little farther so you can see all that compression. Notice how much is going on. Notice Aristotle's hand is an absolute mess. It's got all kinds of geometry going on inside of it, a bunch of squares. So you can see a bunch of horizontal lines, vertical lines, a bunch of weird kind of patterns that you don't want inside the image. That's high. If you switch it to low, it's going to apply after. I don't recommend you go that way. Just let it run at high. And notice it did a really brilliant job. This little guy will let us see the before version. So notice what a mess that hand is. I'm going to zoom in even further so you can see. Notice those aberrant colors going through like veins in his wrist. And this is after. So it looks so much better. Problem is it introduces some aberrant colors. So check out Plato's beard. It has a bunch of purples in it. And Aristotle, his student, the purple has infected under his ear and his cheek and his fingertips as well. That's no good. So here's what you do. You got to be so careful. This is where the stakes are high, people. Output, current layer, very important. Do not change it to new document. You'll ruin the next step. Current layer is the way to go. And then click OK. Now that's going to mess up the zoom for some reason. I don't know why it does that. And it's also going to select the entire image. Don't change that. Don't deselect it. Instead, what I want you to do, we're just going to zoom in. Just let it ride for now. We're going to zoom way in on Plato and Aristotle. And you're going to go to the edit menu and you're going to choose fade neutral filters. The fade command is an old school, bless it. It's a wonderful little command, but it only works right after you apply a pixel level modification, a static modification like we just did. So choose fade neural filters. Keep an eye on both of them. What the heck? Let's move this over a little bit. So facial hair and fingertips, change the mode to luminosity, because really all we care about is the luminance level. So now we're going to have some aberrant colors inside the hand once again, but at least we don't have aberrant colors in the beard. See how much better it is? And the fingertips. So this is before and this is after. All right, so click OK. So that is a very important step. Now you can deselect the image. Why it got selected in the first place, I don't know why neural filters do half of what they do. They end up selecting things. They create layer masks you don't need. Anyway, let's go back to the steps. Now for the actual upsampling. Image size, resample, turn it on, and set the interpolation to preserve details 2.0. All right, so what you want to do, actually, let's zoom out to 100% right here. So you can see 100% in the title tab. Then go up to the image menu and choose image size. For those of you who are like thinking, well, couldn't I use free transform? No, you can't. And that's the end of that discussion. And that's because preserve details is not available with free transform. So image size is the way to go. And then you just want to dial in what I'm going with pixels. Notice that. And I want, let's see, it's 2012 times 4. This is just what works for this screen. And so you can see I entered it *4. So anyway, 8048 pixels. Notice resamples turned on. I shouldn't have blown that off. That's very important. Resamples turned on. Width and height are linked together so that they change together. Change it to 8048 pixels. Now it's going to be, if you do take out a calculator and multiply those two values, that's 50 megapixels. That's more than twice as many pixels horizontally and vertically. So it's going from 11 to 50. And you can see right here, if I change this guy to percent, it's 210%. And if I were to change it to inches, you can see that now it's going to be 30 inches at 267 pixels per inch. Great resolution, by the way. Automatic will destroy the image. That's the good way to put it. Automatic, I don't know why. Automatic upsampling, it goes with a bicubic smoother for enlargement. It's still stuck that way. Or preserve details enlargement also. You want preserve details 2.0. If you're not seeing it, it would be a checkbox that's turned off in the preferences dialog box. Just choose preferences and then search for preserve details. You'll find it. Anyway, I'm going to, what this does is it does a really good job. You can actually preview it right here. Before by clicking and holding, and after if you release. And then what you want to do is take this reduce noise value up. Let's say to 40%. Is just going to help us out. And then click OK. And that already does. This is the actual upsampling. We're looking at the wrong part of the image, but there they are. There are our friends right there, and Michelangelo down here, serving as what? Heraclitus, I believe is the guy's name. Anyway, that shows you that how much better they looked. Then super zoom. Oh my God, super zoom. Okay, anyway, we needn't dwell on Photoshop's failings. Anyway, that is the actual upsampling right there. But that's not enough. I still have 3 more steps, if you like. And these are really important steps because these are going to make things look better. So we're going to convert the image to a smart object now so we can apply Camera Raw as a smart filter, because Camera Raw does the best job of sharpening and noise reduction on images like this. Take my word for that one. And then if you decide to fix any spots, you do so inside the smart object. And so here's what that looks like. All right, first of all, you can see that we could use some sharpening, and we do have some noise problems. Color noise still left over because we got rid of the color noise that was gotten rid of by that JPEG filter that also introduced some color noise. Anyway, what you want to do is you want to double click on this guy in the layers panel. Double click on the background if it is indeed a background. And I'll just go ahead and call this guy Fresco because it is a fresco, and that's important. Click OK. And then I am now going to right click with the rectangular marquee tool and choose Convert to Smart Object. And that way this guy's an indestructible smart object, and we can apply Camera Raw as an editable smart filter. by going up to the filter menu and choosing Camera Raw Filter right here. Now, this is going to increase the file size for those of you who are wondering, hey, just a few weeks ago, I was talking about how great Lab is, especially when compared with applying Camera Raw as a smart filter. But in this case, we're not interested in adjusting the colors. Not right now, anyway. We're interested in adjusting the detail. So I'm going to zoom in even farther, actually. Oh, thank you. I'm going to zoom in by dragging. And so let's see the image at more than 200%. This is good. And I'm going to sharpen it to the tune of 100. So quite a bit of sharpening. Then that's going to do a real number. It's going to make it look pretty bad. Do you see that? Actually, I'm going to zoom in even more on Aristotle's face there. Notice that we have a bunch of what I call micro sharpening, a bunch of noise that's getting sharpened. Twirl this guy open like so and get rid of detail. It should not be on Adobe. It should not be on by default. Definitely not. It's an image ruiner. Look at that thing. Is that what you want? No, it's not. Any degree of detail sharpening is bad unless you have the most pristine image on the face of the planet. And then I'm going to crank the radius up to 2 because we do not have the most pristine image on the face of the planet. I'll zoom out just a little bit. Let's just kind of drag out like so. Now I'm going to take noise reduction, NR, up, and I'm going to take it up to 30. You can go farther if you want. It's totally up to you. This also has some sub values, some porting values, but you don't need to worry about them. And then we do have that color noise like we saw in Aristotle's hand right there. And so let's calm it down by taking this value up to 30. As well, you can take these values higher if you like, but they end up looking pretty great right here. And I can press the P key this time so that we can see the original. This is how it looked before. Pretty kind of gummy. And if I press P again, this is how it looks now. So we have at least more sculpted features going on this time around. And we have better color going on. Notice up here that we do have some color artifacts going on. So this is before, pretty darn bad, and this is after. I'm just pressing the P key. If you want to do even better than that, what the heck? I'm going to take the noise reduction, the color noise reduction, up to 50 in order to try to get rid of that. That does mean you're going to have some wandering colors. The colors may kind of wander outside of their details, like the flesh tones may escape the actual flesh. But looks pretty good to me, at which point I'm going to go ahead and click OK in order to apply that change. And because this is a smart filter and this is Camera Raw, after all, it will take a moment. So just for the record here, this is before and this is after. All right, so last but not least, step 6, fix any spots inside the smart object. Now, by spots, I mean, well, I think you can see them. There's one right there between Aristotle and Plato, and there's one up here, and there's one on Plato's arm, etc. Now, you can use the spot removal inside Camera Raw if you want to. I just happen to prefer to work with the healing brush and removal tools, and so, or it's the remove tool, I believe. But don't do it outside of the smart object. Don't do it on a new layer here, because if you do and you make a change to the smart object, to the Camera Raw filter, specifically to the colors, for example, then these colors will not keep up. If you want them to keep up, then double click on the thumbnail for this smart object so you're entering the unmodified smart object. That is, it's upsampled and all that, but I haven't changed any of the color noise, nor have I sharpened it. So here we are. I am now going to create a new layer by pressing Control-Shift and Command-Shift down on the Mac, and I'll call this guy Spots. And I'll press enter to accept that. And now I'll start by going with the spot healing brush tool. It's quicker is the reason I'm starting with it. Sample all layers, make sure that's turned on. I'm going to reduce the size of my cursor by pressing the left bracket key, and you just want to get rid of those spots. Any old way you want to get rid of your spots, you can get rid of your spots. Obviously, this is the really boring part of image editing, is spot removal, especially on a spot-by-spot basis. So I'm going to let you do that mostly on your own. In other words, I'm not going to do it for you, but I do want to see something inside the image. Let's see some of the bigger stuff. There's a little guy that I want to get rid of. There's another little guy. They're all over the place, actually, where this guy's concerned. Oh, notice that right there. We've got, what is that, electrical socket? Anyway, this kind of stuff, big stuff like that, better to get rid of it with the removal tool, the remove tool. All right, remove tool. And then you can drag around it. Notice that, and then release, and I'll go ahead and fill it in. And then if I miss that guy's fold, I can go ahead and paint that back in as well. Here's something. Oh, this is good. This is a good use for the removal tool, because if I use the spot healing brush, then I might lose that fold right there. And now click there. It is going to take longer if you use the removal tool, because it is using some learning, some advanced learning. And then we've got this. We have something else that's really joyful in this image to get rid of. It just gives you a real sense of completion. Oh, I know. It's way up here. Notice this guy. Isn't that bad? And so what we do is increase the size of the brush a little bit. So this is up in the archway. And I will drag around it once again. You don't have to fill it all the way in. You can drag around to lasso it. And then release it. Sample all layers has to be turned on for this to work right. I should have mentioned that. But did you see? This is before and this is after. It made the little bit dollops and everything, and it did a pretty good job. If you don't like it, of course, you can just undo and try again. And that's swell. And then once you're done, I'm far from done. There's a lot more to do, but this is good enough for now. Then you would just go ahead and close the image and then click yes. Don't click no. Click yes or save. Don't click don't save on the Mac. And I mention this because I'm the idiot who spent about an hour getting rid of every single spot in here, closed it, and hit the no button. I did that. I really actually did that. What kind of expert am I? Anyway, yes, you want to save your changes. Of course, you just work so hard on that. And then all those things will go away. So that thing, where was it? It's a little higher than this, I think. It's up here someplace. And it's these dots. They're kind of noticeable. You can see them right there. But this is the before version, and this is after version. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Not to mention like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And learn how to make Raphael look so great it would make Michelangelo jealous. Join me at patreon.com/DeekNow, and then go to Deek.com and sign up for my awesome newsletter. I'm Deke McClellan. This is Deek Now.